we are live for our newest experiment. We already have one person, Larry, joining us. Rebecca, thank you for joining us. Michael Finch, oh, great to see you, my friend. Um, so I suppose I'll wait just a few more minutes, see if anybody else joins us. But this is a experiment here for God of the Desert Books. I'm David Swindle, David Michael Swindle, I should say. I've been using the middle name lately. I'm going to do a little piece about that, why I've been doing that. Um, Maria, thank you for joining us. So I'm very excited. I meant to do this yesterday. Um, I as many of you probably know, I'm a book fanatic. I was raised by a librarian, and my father is a research psychologist, a very distinguished career. And so I grew up with books all around and going to the library regularly. And so at the library here in Yucca Valley now, um, in addition to, uh, I feel like I want to brag about the other books. Um, Well, I mean, I'll wait to get into Right Wing Book Club. We'll do that, but I'm getting the Ronald Reagan books, because that's going to be a piece of it. So I'm comparing the different Ronald Reagan books on their emphases and things. So I'm the geek that, like, if I want to research something, I just go on to the library and put in, oh, what subject, and then I will just check out everything. I recently checked out a dozen books on Saudi Arabia. I had to send some of those back. Anyway, I should get to what was promised. So anyway, I go to the library at least once a week to return holds and to return books that are due, pick up holds, and also the thing's very exciting. Um, they have the Friends of the Library uh, book sale room, and it's awesome. It's awesome. It's $1 hardbacks. So I will usually try and limit myself. I'll just do two or three, but um, I got a little carried away, or I got enough. And I'm like, okay, I may as well break out the 10. And I mean, I could just pay by credit card, but that would be it's anyway. But I'm most excited about this. Anybody know Umberto Eco? And by the way, I've got just a little light thing here that I'm doing to make the visuals more interesting. I don't know. This is all experimental as we're figuring out the new live streaming thing. But anyway, I was so excited about this because Umberto Eco, he was great Italian novelist. Ah, crap. I'll figure it out. Great Italian novelist. Some of you may be familiar with this one because it's his most famous book. His first book came out in the 80s and became a Sean Connery movie. But anyway, so this one, In the Name of the Rose, The Name of the Rose, it's a mystery thriller set in, what's here, 1327. This is a thick one, Umberto Eco. But this one is exciting because it's a murder mystery set in 1327 in a monastery. And it's got maps and stuff. But the thing that's so great about Echo, for those of you who aren't familiar, he's like academic, or he was academic. He died in I don't know, 2016, 2018, thereabouts. So his books are very thoroughly researched. He put like years of research into them. So he wasn't like trying to churn out novels. You know, his job was a professor, and so the novels were something he did on the side, and they were amazing. But I'm really excited because this was his first one. But the two of his that I have already, and I will just recommend. So I have them on the shelf here. I'm going to talk about them more. Um, This one right here, Foucault's Pen. This is the one that turned me on to him. This is his second book. And don't be intimidated by the length of this. You know, this is like, how many pages we got here? Yeah. This is over 600 pages, but it just reads so fast and it's just fun. So this is his second one. And this is sort of this is almost like a conspiracy kind of book. It's about these publishers who decide to create this silly conspiracy theory from all the submissions they get, and they just throw it all together and into a computer program, and it's just wonderful dance through history. Because it plays with a lot of the medieval kind of Knights Templar type conspiracy theories. So he has that historical thing to him, and so this really turned me on to him, and this is one that like I'm going to reread again. His these are if you like novels that you can read multiple times, he's one of the authors to do that with. So Foucault's Pendulum, I'm going to read again, but also this, the Prague Cemetery. This is awesome. Okay, Prague Cemetery was is written from the perspective of the supposed author of the Protocols of the Elders of Zion. So it's written from the perspective of this over the top anti-Semite. The protagonist in Prague Cemetery is evil, totally evil protagonist. So you don't get that so often where you're in the head of totally evil character. But you get a little bit removed at times. You're getting it through the diary, and at times you're getting different perspectives. But this is awesome, great historical stuff. So anyway, these two, I totally got into him. I've also read a third one of his. Numero Zero was his last one. It's a shorter one. I need to get that one again too. That one's really good. But I'm especially excited to do this one. And then I need to actually get the Sean Connery movie, I think. You know. So anyway, um $1 hardback. So excited. But that's not all. That's just the beginning of my massive library score. Um this in particular is the next gem. Let's just give her a moment. This is a thick one. Um, so I should preface this. I'm a Virginia Woolf fanatic. I adore her. I had a professor in college that turned me on to her. You have a great professor, can make any subject exciting. But she deserves to be exciting because I'm sort of the opinion that she was the novelist of the 20th century, the best, and just an incredible author. And so this is collection of her letters, 1912 to 1922. And what's especially wonderful about this is that yeah, I've had volume 1 for years. Of course, I haven't read this. No, instead, I've just held on to it and collected it because I know that, like, okay, I'm gonna use her voice and her style in a character at some point, and I've started doing that. You know, because like, if you study different writers and you get them in your head, it just sort of, aspects of them will just flow into your writing, and you just blend it with multiple people, and she's one to keep returning to. Um, so yeah, $1. $1. This is absurd. So that's it's made me real loyalist to go to the library at least every week because I'll find stuff like this for $1. Um, I don't want to break the because I no, I'll wait to the end of this to tell you the awesome score I got a few weeks ago that like blew my head, and I'm like, oh my god, I can't believe that people because this is just friends of the Yucca Valley Library bookstore, and you think, oh, little desert town, but for some reason, like there's some people around here that donate books, and they're like great books, and I think a lot of times people will die and they'll donate their estates. I've gotten a lot of great books that way. um, anyway, so I think somebody was just unloading their Virginia Woolf books because Vita Sackville West. Everybody familiar with her? I don't know her well enough because she's Vita Sackville West was one of Virginia Woolf's lovers, most famously so. Inspired the character Orlando. Um, Famously, Virginia wrote that as kind of a love letter to her. So I don't know her as well, and certainly not except through the lens of her relationship with Virginia Woolf. So at some point, it'll be good to see what the deal is with her. I'll see. A defiantly, well, let's see if I can make sure everybody can read that. A defiantly independent, eccentric aristocrat, an impassioned and prolific writer, and a world renowned gardener, Vita Sackville West has been characterized as the quintessential glitterata, a mother of vitality and Lady Chatterley and her lover rolled into one. Always a conspicuous element of the beau monde of the early 1900s, only now in this first full scale biography is she revealed as one of the most important and strongly influential personalities of her era. From her childhood at Knoll, the vast Sackville estate, her flamboyant and scandalous love affairs with women, Violet Trefis and Virginia Woolf among them, and her highly unconventional marriage to the diplomat Harold Nicholson, to her famous restoration of Sissinghurst Castle. Vita's life is recreated here with compassion, animation, and rare insight. So that will be exciting. But along with this, the letters that was just mentioned here, Violet, I'm not going to mangle her name again. The other, far more tragic side to the story told by Nigel Nicholson in Portrait of a Marriage. Wow. The most famous of all lesbian love affairs. Interesting. So, I mean, it was a dollar, and I thought, okay, well, considering that I've got this collection going of Virginia Woolf stuff, I'll do a live stream of that at some point of presenting like my anyway. This one jumped out at me. I'd heard of the title before. Um, I don't know much about it. It's 1990, so this is an old book, and it looks like it covers these countries. But anyway, I got this because I am really interested now in Africa. I mean, I have been for some time because my ex-wife April and I we traveled to Africa. It would have been, geez, 7, 8, 9 years ago or so. Went to Senegal and Nigeria, and a little bit of time in Morocco, and just touched down briefly in the UAE. But loved it. Definitely want to go back. It's wonderful, wonderful food, wonderful people, wonderful experience. And I particularly but gotten interested in Africa lately. We've made a good friend lately through Substack, Yakubu. We've published him before, and he's become a good friend. He's in Nigeria, so hope to publish more of his writings and support his career. He's going to be graduating soon from college, and just a tremendous writer and creative. So, but last year I did just story for the Algeminer about a report came out from I think it was West Point's Counterterrorism Center. They're kind of the best when it comes to terrorism analysis, and Africa is the center of global terrorism right now, particularly the Sahel region, which is the southern part of right, like coming up to the Sahara. So that region from all the way from the east to the west. There's a lot of terrorism going on there, most lethal right now, and it's particularly because the countries Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso. They've had coups the last few years and kind of kicked out the West and brought in Russia with Wagner Group, and they're not doing a very good job kind of fighting the terrorists. So there's some terrorism popping up there, and also in the Horn of Africa. Very interested in what's going on there. I actually have a story that should be coming out today at the Algeminer. I don't know, maybe it'll be kicked to tomorrow. We'll see. Um, about some of you may have heard about Somaliland and how Israel is the first country in the world to recognize Somaliland, which is technically considered part of Somalia, and that's how it's recognized, but they are a breakaway. They've been wanting to be their own country since 1991, mainly because they are like all one tribe, one clan, the Iska tribe. I think I don't know. I'm still learning all the names and everything. So, uh, anyway, so learning more about Africa and Horn of Africa in particular, Ethiopia, Djibouti, Eritrea, having to learn about it more and thinking about it more because as I've written about, I've been less concerned about terrorism in the Middle East lately, because Israel's done such a good job the last few years, decimating Hamas and Hezbollah, and Iran is a failed state right now. So I'm looking around further at what are the further threats right now, um, and it's looking like Africa. And Africa, particularly in the Horn, we're seeing these conflicts between Saudi Arabia and the UAE. Oh, Rivka, thanks for joining. It's great to see you. I was just talking Israel stuff too. I was just explaining that in the Horn of Africa and also in Sudan now, this is very interesting. That it used to be that like UAE and Saudi were kind of together and more allied-ish, that MBZ, head of UAE, was kind of promoting MBS, but there's been a lot of rivalry now between the two of them. They're on opposite sides of the civil war in Sudan. UAE is on one side, Saudi's on the other, and that's what's happening too in the Horn of Africa. That UAE and Israel are kind of on the side of the breakaway Somaliland, and Saudi Arabia is on the side of the existing Somalia. Somalia is kind of it's they're a federation of states like us, so it's multiple states together. And Somaliland's been trying to break off, and lately I've been learning more about Puntland, which is the one actually on the Horn itself. They're directly to the east of Somaliland, and um, they're named after the land of Punt from the time of Egypt. So anyway, they're interesting because they want to still be part of Somalia, but they actually don't recognize the existing government in Somalia because there were changes made to the constitution, which they did not agree to. So anyway, I've been getting really interested in Africa and in politics and stuff. So I just saw this, it was a dollar, thought let's go for it. Next was another one that I saw, okay, well, this is a buck. I may as well go for it. I bet a bunch of you on here know Chuck Palahniuk. Fight Club, particular, was his famous one. Haunted, this is a novel of his. What year did this come out? 2005. So at this point, I had sort of lost interest in him because I got into Chuck Palahniuk. I was in high school and I was young, rebellious high schooler getting out of evangelical Christianity, looking to be punk and rebellious. So I was reading Fight Club and Survivor and Invisible Monsters. These were the first three Chuck Palahniuk books to come out, and Fight Club had just been made into a movie. So he was the hot, cool, edgy author, write transgressive books with shocking things and shocking language and so forth. And so these three, like in high school, I was really into these three. Then Choke came out, and this has been made into a movie too. And I thought, okay, this is good, this is funny, but it's still a little derivative. I kind of got that he'd sort of figured out a little bit of a formula with these three, and then he did it again with Choke. And I thought, okay, all right. It was still good, but not as good as the other three. And then his next one, Lullaby, he did something totally different. He did more of a um, it's more of a ghost story, more supernatural, more genre-y. And I just thought, okay, well, I mean, this is good, but not what I was really looking for. I was into the transgressive kind of literary pushing it, and now he was getting more into like, okay, supernatural, horror, thriller. And then he did the same thing with his next one, Diary, which I've had, and I don't think I've even read it. 'Cause I just wasn't that interested in Fugitives and Refugees and Stranger Than Fiction, I'm pretty sure are nonfiction collections, but by Choke, I was like, "Okay, well, let's see what he d" but I was running out of interest here because he did this, like, supernatural turn, and that's what this next one is, Haunted. I didn't even bother to read this because I wasn't interested. What is this? Haunted by Chuck Palahniuk is a novel made up of stories, 23 of them to be precise, 23 of the most horrifying, hilarious, mind blowing, stomach churning tales you'll ever encounter, sometimes all at once. They're told by people who have answered an ad headlined Writer's Retreat, abandon your life for 3 months, and who are led to believe that they will leave behind all the distractions of, quote, real life that are keeping them from creating the masterpiece that is in them. But here, turns out to be a cavernous and ornate old theater where they are utterly isolated from the outside world and where heat and power and, most important, food are in increasingly short supply. And the more desperate the circumstances become, the more extreme the stories they tell, and the more devious their machinations become to make themselves the hero of the inevitable play slash movie slash nonfiction blockbuster that will surely be made from their plight. Haunted is on one level a satire of reality television, the real world meets alive. It draws from a great literary tradition, the Canterbury Tales, the Decameron, the English storytellers in the Villa, Diodati, who produced, among other works, Frankenstein, to tell an utterly contemporary tale of people desperate that their story be told at any cost. Appallingly entertaining. Appallingly entertaining? Really? Haunted is Chuck Palahniuk at his finest, which means his most extreme and his most provocative. So I don't know. I guess I wasn't so interested in it because I think one of the short stories is there even a table of contents or and anyway, I mean, one of the short stories I remember hearing about, it's called Guts or something, and it's like it's really gross. It's like some guy in a pool and his intestines get pulled out, and like I guess infamously Palahniuk would read this story and people would like faint. So I thought to myself, well, why do I want to read that? you know, by the time this was coming out, okay, so by 2005 or so, I was in college now. Whereas the previous ones, I was in high school and like, okay, I need something edgy. But by this time, I'm in college and I'm already having my college adventures. Being a young man on town and so forth. I won't get into details now, but you get the picture. Life was more exciting then. I didn't need to get my kicks from shocking books anymore. I was no longer in the boring suburbs. Okay. I only have one, two, three. I only have four more. So this one I saw, I think, yeah, I think the ones I previously showed you, one, two, three, four, yeah, like at that point when I found those, I was like, okay, I'm already getting this many. So I was at this point, I was like, okay, I'm going to spend $10 because I like to give the no, no. What it was is I had six ones. I think that's what it was. I got to six and I was like, I may as well. Anyway, um, I got this because as some of you who follow regularly, whoever you may be, um, I'm not a fan of Russia at all. Not just like, oh, the Soviet Union and communism was bad. I take the position from Richard Pipes, who was the father of Daniel Pipes, who some of you may be more familiar with, Middle East scholar, founder of the Middle East Forum, where I worked for a number of years. His father, Richard Pipes, one of the most famous and influential Russia scholars. He was at Harvard. And so I take his view on Russia. And his view is that Russian culture writ large is wrong. He has a book, I think it's called Property and Freedom, but he makes the point that essentially Russia's never had a doctrine of private property. The czar just owns everything. And that's still the way it is. Vladimir Putin is a czar. So anyway, I thought this is a gap that I need. So I may as well. I'm going to have to do more Russia research soon. So may as well figure out Nicholas II. My impression of Nicholas II has generally been he's kind of pathetic. Isn't that right? I mean, his wife was influential so much, and of course the whole Rasputin thing. But anyway, I know enough and have had to learn enough about the founding of the Soviet Union, and I've had to learn so much about fucking Marxism. Oh God, yeah, so much about Marxism. Yeah, I'll even show off here. I mean, just gonna wait to start throwing these out, but like, yeah, gonna get back into this again. I haven't read all this. Main Currents of Marxism. A former boss and old mentor, David Horowitz, he insisted this was the book about Marxism, and it is. So that's one of them. Another one, Marxism by Thomas Sowell. My copy is damaged, but that's okay. A lot of my books got damaged at when we were out, but not a bunch. I mean, a few. And I can replace these, but this is even better. I mean, this is a shorter summary of Marxism, and I'm sure a bunch of you on there like Thomas Sowell, and it's one of his best. But we'll get into that soon in my whole plan right wing book club thing that I'm going to do. Got piles of books around here. I'm going to talk about it. But for now, this talk, I'm trying to just limit myself to the books that I got in this massive score. 3 more. Um, this is probably the one I shouldn't have gotten, or the least highbrow of them. I mean, what the hell is this? I just saw this, and I was like, well, this is for $1. The Book of Unusual Knowledge. I don't think that's true at all. There is no desire more natural than the desire for knowledge. I don't think that's true. No, I think the more natural thing is for deceit. People want to be lied to, they want to lie to each other. They don't want to pursue what's true. For unusual conversations, happy 37th, Heart, Paula. I love getting used books because I love getting other people's notes in them. Um, so what do we have here? And this is from 2012, Publications International. You could never get enough unusual knowledge. Okay, let's just get something at random. Mary Todd Lincoln. Mary Todd Lincoln was a Northerner by marriage, but a Southerner by birth, raised in a slaveholding family in Kentucky. Mary Todd, okay, no. Interesting. Okay. I still need to do my Lincoln period. I haven't done that as much. I'm not super into Lincoln, but who I am into, though, since I'm pulling out books here and there and trying to be, this is one that I've been meaning to make the time to read. Yeah. Frederick Douglass is awesome. This is like the big 8 pages. Is this over 800? Yeah. Yeah. Uh, yeah. You just need to read a little bit of Frederick Douglass and you're like, wow, okay. And then you want to get the whole story of him. So, Book of Unusual Knowledge. This was like, okay, for $1, I'll do something with this. And not that impressed, honestly. I should have gotten something else. But I was already pressed for time and feeling like, okay, I can't keep. 2 more. And remember, $1. $1 each. It's only $10. I'm just going to leave that there for a second. Leave that there for a second and reflect On what we've lost. On what we've lost. Character is destiny. I was never that big of a John McCain person when he was around. I always I mean, of course, I was liberal and left wing for much of his career, and then for the other half of his career, I was right wing and regarded him as generally a little too squishy, but I still respect him and now look on him a little bit differently. Post Trump, of course. But no, he was a great man. He was a great man, a great American. And I decided to pick this up. John McCain's moving and eloquent tribute to men and women who have lived truthfully and whose stories will stir the hearts of young and old alike and help prepare us for the hard work of choosing our own destinies. John McCain and Mark Salter have written three acclaimed bestsellers, but Character is Destiny may be their most influential and enduring book yet, a work for parents to share with their children and for Americans of all ages to read for inspiration and guidance. McCain has been called, quote, one of the most important public figures of his generation, end quote, by the Washington Post. In Character's Destiny, he shows us why, by telling the stories of celebrated historical figures and lesser known heroes whose values exemplify the best of the human spirit. He illustrates these qualities with moving stories of triumph against the odds, righteousness in the face of iniquity, hope in adversity, and sacrifices for a cause greater than self interest. In Character's Destiny, we meet Pat Tillman, whose patriotism obliged him to leave the riches and celebrity of the NFL for a soldier's life in defense of his country. Winston Churchill, who, in a renowned 18-word remark, counseled schoolboys to never give up. The Catholic priest in Auschwitz, who offered to take a condemned man's place. A nun, formerly a comfortable Beverly Hills housewife who works with prisoners in Mexico's worst jails. George Washington, whose wisdom and hard-earned self-control helped him survive the chaos of war. These are just a few of the heroes of exemplary character whose portraits McCain offers here. I'm not going to get into political ranting. I know people didn't want that for this one, so I will restrain myself. But I think we're going to return to a point in America where character is valued, where it's understood that you need men of good character who take seriously right and wrong, who live by the Bible and believe it, and know that God is watching them, know that they will have to answer for what they will do, and know that we're not just sacks of flesh. Last, remember, $1. Oxford History of the American West. Yeah, you can see why I love going to the library. When we think of the American West, we tend to conjure up images that are known the world over. Bearded 49ers leading pack mules up a mountain trail, the Oklahoma land stampede, Custer's last stand, and especially the range-riding, quick-shooting cowboy. But these familiar images are only a small part of Western history, from the arrival of the Navajos to the south in the Southwest more than 700 years ago to the first Spanish settlements in New Mexico in the late 16th century, to the large Mormon migration to the Great Salt Lake, to the tourists flocking to the neon landscape of modern Las Vegas, the complex story of the West stretches across centuries, embracing many voices and contrasting cultures. The West is, in fact, as varied as America itself. Indeed, to enlarge on Wallace Stegner's singular phrase, the West is America, only more so. Um, this is important. I got this, of course, because this is really who I am. I didn't took me a while to really understand it. That and it's come into greater clarity as I've learned more of my family's history. That my great grandfather is the one that took the family out west from Tuscaloosa. That's where the Swindle family was based at the time of the Civil War, and then afterwards, he left. Joseph Oxley Swindle left in covered wagon, 1870s, and arrived in West Texas, settled in pretty Texas, and raised basically two separate families. And my grandfather, Ralph Wilson Swindle Sr., was the last of the second family. Um, and eager to escape Texas as quickly as he could, and then relocating to California, to Los Altos, after World War II, after being a pilot in the Pacific Theater. And we just learned just a few years ago was involved in some reconnaissance flight after the bombing of Nagasaki. Just learned that recently. And I really, yeah, it's so I feel most at home in the West, and not just California, but just the whole West, west of the Rockies. I don't like the eastern half of the country. I'm sorry. I don't like the Midwest. I feel awkward going to the East Coast, going to Washington D.C. Few times I have to go and cover something. Occasionally, I've gotten flown out there to cover it. That's the only time you're usually going to get me is if you pay me to go out there. Um, I'm a Western person. I have this ethos. I like westerns. I like the cowboy stuff. Maybe that's why I still resonate with Reagan and why I'm eager to be studying him more. And I'll get into that more when I start the Right Wing Book Club. But yeah, and driving around the West more. I've drive back to Indiana a few times in the past few years, and I've really gotten to introduce the West to Sally. And it's just so culturally different. I may as well point this out now. Where is this? Yeah, this is a good time to rant about this. Make this point. I should rant about this regularly. This is one of my favorite books, American Nations, Colin Woodard. The reason I love this book, because it explains the different nations in America, different cultural nations in America, down to which county. Okay. And in the book, he explains the different cultures. And in particular, American culture has largely been the battle between Yankeedom and the Deep South. Deep South allied with Greater Appalachia and the Midlands. The Midlands being the swing area. I am biased. San Bernardino County, this is us right here. I am like right here, right now. Right there. So I am in the far west, this far west region, but it is far west blended with El Norte and with quite a bit, of course, influence of the left coast. That's the stereotypical, that's Gavin Newsom. That's the stereotype of the California liberal that doesn't believe anything. Yeah. I prefer the independent ruggedness of the far west. Because understand, people, right here, San Bernardino County, I love saying this, we are still in the Wild West. It is still Wild West, cowboy culture, cowboys and robbers and all that. But also, blend of El Norte. We've got like 50% roughly um, Hispanic population, and I love it. I love the culture. I love going to Mexican restaurants and music and the people. Yeah. So I like the blending, that blend here. And I grew up in here. So this mix of cultures. And then I had to go live here, the blend of Midlands and Greater Appalachia in Indiana. And that blend, Midlands culture and Greater Appalachia culture, it's poison, it's toxic. Because you have this Midlands conformist culture based in Quakerism and German immigrants. Conformist, don't talk, don't stir the pot, just tolerate whatever. Blended with Greater Appalachia warrior culture from the Scottish Highlands. I imagine some of you know Black Rednecks and White Liberals by Thomas Sowell. Talks about the Scottish Highland culture, redneck culture here. So you get like this squishy, polite Indiana, don't want to offend everybody, along with the toughen up. Arr. So you get a super sports and stuff. So I don't like it. I hate going back to this whole region. I mean, I'm okay with, the Yankeedom and, I've talked, like Wisconsin or something in particular. I like that region. It's cold, but it's a different culture. Different people went and settled here. Different people settled here. Different people. So you get totally different cultures and you get certain blends. For example, Louisiana, New Orleans, New France. I'm down with New France. I like Louisiana. I like New Orleans. I actually have some French Canadian on my grandfather's side, on my mom's side. But no, I've got some fondness for French culture in some ways. Anyway, that's enough of a rant there. Um, that's what I mostly wanted to talk about, is just brag about the 10 books that I got. But I still have you here. I still have people here, and it seems a waste to just hit off because I still have some time. I've got a meeting in an hour, but still have a little time. So I suppose I should also I'll just mention too, just so you understand how awesome this library trip was for me, that I was able to buy all those books for $10 cash. I also picked up my holds. So I picked up my holds and a few other things. So let me show you what else I got. Since book geeks, I'm sure you may be interested. Okay. First, the one I needed to get, um, I had to go to the library, particularly because one of my holds was you can only keep it on hold for so long before they send it back. So I had to pick up this one. Do we have any? Oh, good. He put Abigail and John Adams. Any Abigail and John Adams fans in the house? I'm one. Yeah, I was turned on to John Adams by the John Adams miniseries and by during Tea Party period. Those of us on the right, had to really get into the founding, be like, "Oh, what do we think here?" And, "Oh, are we on the—" I'm a John Adams man. I was then, I still am. I'm gonna study him more. Got some John Adams book we'll talk about in the Right Wing Book Club. But, just pick this up, as part of put that on hold because I like them a lot, particularly, John Adams, because he was morally based. He took the Bible seriously. They were anti-slavery, particularly Abigail, and very pro-Jewish. Had some wonderful things recognizing the role of the Jewish people. So, I think history's finally starting to pick up on the role that the Adams family played. Also, John Quincy Adams was important. So, I'm gonna be studying them as a whole family, not just John Adams, but John, Abigail, John Quincy, and, the whole family as a whole. I'm getting more into, like, family systems theory. You really have to look at a whole family and see who does what and why. You can't just look at people in isolation. So that's sort of one of the ways that I'm reevaluating history, is looking at what is the whole family. Um, by the way, I've been doing non-alcoholic beer lately. That's been my thing. I haven't been doing alcohol because I don't want to fuel the anxiety that I've had lately. So they're non-alcoholic. This is the last of a Dos Equis double X non-alcoholic salt and lime. It's just great. Mm. I figure this makes it more interesting. So non-alcoholic Stella, quite good. I have been doing. My dad turned me on to a Heineken non-alcoholic. But this was on sale for $5 less, and I'd gotten it previously in the bottle and liked it. I did not pour that as well as I normally would, but I'm, like, trying to film it, so you'll forgive me. Cheers. Mm. Yeah. Okay. So we'll be talking about John and Abigail Adams more. I'm into them. They're great. Next books that I've got, um, so I've got 6 of them here that are technically part of the Right Wing Book Club. I won't talk about them too much because I'm gonna save that for Right Wing Book Club, but oh, looks like we have an ongoing theme, don't we? When character is destiny, when character was king. Story of Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan, I will point to also, California, Hollywood. That's what he was. California conservatism. Gotta remember and appreciate that. So this was I picked up this one just because, like, okay, well, I'm getting like all the different flavors of Reagan books, you know, the neutral type approach, the left wing critique approach, the people that worked with Reagan approach, the hagiography approach. Look at all the different. Hey, Jasmine girl, it's coming out. Anyway, so I got this one, and Peggy Noonan, of course, um, internal. She worked for him, speechwriter. Paul Kingor, I like quite a bit. Probably leading Reagan hagiography. I don't mean that derisively because I agree with the approach generally, since I am so pro Reagan, but it is like, yeah, he's given the pro-Reagan perspective, so multiple books on Reagan. Um, and so this is Kangor is Catholic, so this is one that he focuses on relationship between John Paul II and Ronald Reagan. But I this is I'm reading where is it? Grab it real quick. Ah, well, now I don't know where it is. The Kangor book that I am reading is The Crusader, and that's the one that argues and explains how Reagan won the Cold War. Where did I put it? Anyway, I'll talk about that one later. But also easier. I'm still reading that one, but this is a nice one by him. 11 Principles of a Reagan Conservative. This is short. Probably should have been longer. It justifies the book, but it's like padded out with Reagan's speeches. But reviewing this, I realized, okay, I'm still hitting all the bases here. I still qualify. Freedom, faith, family, sanctity, and dignity of human life, American exceptionalism, the founders' wisdom and vision, lower taxes, limited government, peace through strength, anti communism, belief in the individual. I still qualify. I mean, I'm still just as hawkish and anti communist as I was 12 years ago, pre Trump. Um, Other Reagan books. Craig Shirley, I'm pretty sure, is pro Reagan. Did he work for Reagan? Um, yeah, he's written a number of Reagan books. Ronald Reagan's life after public office. Definitive account. Okay, that'll be interesting. Brett Baer, of course, Fox News Brett Baer. Um, in his acclaimed bestseller, 3 Days in January, Brett Baer illuminated the extraordinary leadership of President Dwight Eisenhower at the dawn of the Cold War. Now, in his highly anticipated new book, 3 Days in Moscow, Baer explores the gripping endgame of America's long struggle with the Soviet Union and President Ronald Reagan's central role in shaping today's world. On May 31st, 1988, Reagan addressed a packed audience at Moscow State University with a remarkable, yet now largely forgotten, speech that capped his first visit to the Soviet capital. This fourth in a series of summits between Reagan and Soviet General Secretary Mikhail Gorbachev was a dramatic coda to their tireless efforts to reduce the nuclear threat. More than that, Reagan viewed it as, quote, a grand historical moment, an opportunity to light a path for the Soviet people toward freedom, human rights, and a future he told them they could embrace if they so chose. It was the first time an American president gave a speech about freedom and human rights on Russian soil. Reagan had once called the Soviet Union an evil empire, but now saying that depiction was from, quote, another time. He beckoned the Soviets to join him in a new vision of the future. The importance of Reagan's Moscow speech was largely overlooked at the time, but the new world he spoke of was fast approaching. The following year, in November 1989, the Berlin Wall fell and the Soviet Union began to disintegrate, leaving the United States the sole superpower on the world stage. Today, the end of the Cold War is perhaps the defining historical moment of the past half century and must be understood if we are to make sense of America's current place in the world amid the reemergence of U.S. tension during Vladimir Putin's tenure, using Reagan's 3 days in Moscow to tell the larger story of the president's critical and often misunderstood role in orchestrating a successful, peaceful ending to the Cold War. Baer illuminates the character of one of our nation's most venerated leaders and reveals the unique qualities that allowed Reagan to succeed in forming an alliance for peace with the Soviet Union, even when his predecessors had fallen short. Cool. That's a different angle on it. Angle focusing on that period of time. That'll be fun. Now, next that I got is a different approach. Different approach to Reagan. Rick Perlstein. Rick Perlstein is left wing, and his first book about the right is this one, Before the Storm, Barry Goldwater and the Unmaking of the American Consensus. And it's a history book, tells the story of the rise of the right, centered around Barry Goldwater. So it's starting in like early 60s period story of the right. And I have read almost the first 30 pages of this, and I don't really like it. Not because he's left wing, but because I don't care for his style that much. And it seems a little fluffy. Doesn't seem to have a lot of meat to it. We'll see, though. I mean, winner of the lost. I mean, he's got a lot of accolades, but he writes these thick history books of the right. So, like, this is 1964 to Barry Goldwater, and then the next one was Nixon Land. So it's like it continues with this, but just does the Nixon period, and then this is the next one of fall of Nixon and the rise of Reagan, big and thick, and then I was familiar with his name because I have this. So you get this. This is all one. This is essentially his narrative from of like the 60s and the 70s right wing history. I got this cheap, and now of course it's damaged too, but still readable. So I guess it's fine. Um, got this cheap at a book outlet, and was like, okay, oh, Reagan book, okay, history book. It's only a few dollars, so still haven't read it yet because it's, as I've talked about, I'm intimidated by it. This is over 1,000 pages for 1976 to 1980. Very indulgent. 1,000 pages here. Well, let's just do, well, what all do we have? We got over 600 pages for the first one. Then this one is over 800 pages. Then this one is over 800 pages. And then, so this is absurd. This is absurd. But, or maybe it's not. Maybe it's good. I've only read the first 30 pages of it. But my impression is he's just talking too long and quoting too much. And we'll find out, though. I'll be open minded because they've got all these awards. But like, just so you understand, I mean, all you have to do to know which ideological bias a book has is to pull up what is the author's, how are they described? And you'll get the ideological signals. In particular, he has contributed to The Nation, The New Republic, The New Yorker, Slate, London Review of Books, and from the summer of 2003 until 2005, he covered the presidential campaign as chief national political correspondent for The Village Voice. He lives in Chicago. Translation, he's leftist. He's left wing. It's not that everyone that contributes to The Nation is, just most people, and particularly if you're going to put that in your bio. Yeah, won the 2001 Los Angeles Times Book Award. New York Times, Washington Post, Nation, Village Voice, Slate. So, yes, an establishment leftist book. His take. But it's endorsed by different. William Crystal endorses it. Bill Crystal. Detailed, dramatic narrative of the rise of the modern right. It's an amazing story, and Perlstein, a man of the left, does it justice. We'll see. I'm not that, as I said, I'm not that impressed 30 pages in, but I'll have to take a get his approach, I guess. So the Pearlstein version of the right. Um, so those are the only books that I had to get on hold. I will put this with the Adams books. Um, the last couple, I at the Yucca Valley Library, the hold shelf is right by the graphic novels section, and they will often just have some displayed, and I'll just check out, what do they have. And I'm not as big of a comics or graphic novel person as I used to be. Um, I mean, there's a few that I still appreciate, but I've kind of grown out of it. uh, but one that I had found, I'll talk about more. This isn't one of the ones I got, but um, I got to plug that this is awesome. This is a graphic novel biography of Vladimir Putin, and it's great. It is loaded with facts and serious analysis, but it's also funny, and it just gives you the whole picture. And Andreas Weiss so really knows his stuff on Russia. And the thing that's particularly wonderful about this book and its general thesis is that Putin is a fraud, particularly in terms of being strong and tough and smart. But really, he's stupid. Stupid in that he doesn't understand what's really going on in the world because he believes tons of conspiracy theory nonsense. He always wants to think that if there's revolt or revolution somewhere, that's actually a conspiracy that the CIA is doing, not that the people would want to revolt. That's beyond him to consider. And that's one of the interesting things that I've learned about foreign policy over the years is that the conspiracy theory stuff, it's not just, oh, some goofy uncle believes that stuff. No, it will be the leaders of countries will be conspiracy theorists, particularly in the Middle East. In the Middle East, you'll get, the king of Saudi Arabia, or obviously in countries that like the Islamic regime in Iran. I don't like to say Iran. I always say the Islamic regime in Iran. That's one of the things that we will sometimes do in pro-Israel space to distinguish the illegitimacy of the regime in Iran and that it is not the same as Iran, the country, and the people of Iran. Distinguish that. That's an important thing to do. But in regimes like that, they actually do believe in anti Semitic conspiracy theories. They will actually believe that the Jews run the world. That's what they think. And of course, because they believe that nonsense, then they are totally ill equipped to fight back and deal with reality properly, which is one of the reasons why we see Vladimir Putin is going to lose the war in Ukraine. It's been clear for some time now for me. I don't know if it has been for other people. Why is he going to lose? Hey, David Martin, thanks for joining us. Going a bit longer still, just talking about other library books that I've got. So I'm just talking about different books now, other books I picked up. Since people are here, I've got a little time before I got to go to my meeting, 45 minutes, hard appreciated. So I'm just going to keep talking about some of the library books I have, at least until I think I've got enough juice on my phone to talk for a bit. I could just plug it in or not. Gotta move that around. I'll mess with it later. But anyway, Accidental Czar, Life and Lies of Vladimir Putin. It's funny, enlightening, and it makes you really see. It also gives you the whole Russia picture. Russia picture, it's just very, very thoughtful. I'll talk about it more. I'm going to talk about it in the right wing book club of laying out the books that I've read so far and ones that I intend to read as I'm reevaluating and re-looking again. I mean, it started as just I was going to do a book review of a couple of them, and then I realized, oh, I need to make premium content for the Substack. So, premium content for the Substack and finish the research for my Joy of Political Sex nonfiction book that I've been working on for over a decade. Anyway, I got some graphic novels. Last 3, I just after I picked up my holds, I thought, "Oh, okay, I've got a few little space left." So, what seemed of interest, you've probably seen these memes going around the comics. Strange planet, cute little blue alien creatures. Really wonderful online comic. I guess this was one of the books that he did. Basically, they'll kind of presents little aliens, and they will say common things. Um, Except they'll use kind of cute alien language. It's sweet, and I wanted to, I'm getting more because um, I'm starting to I'm going to start drawing again. Doing some illustrate. I'm getting back into art, and I'm going to be live streaming some of that soon. Some of you may have already noticed I've done some whiteboard illustrations, but now I'm going to do black paper illustrations. That's the thing that I want to start exploring is kind of a noirish style. We'll talk more about that in the future. But so that's my motivation with I'd heard about this graphic novel before, but I specifically got it because it has the black and white. Some of you may be familiar with the Sin City Frank Miller books, since that's what I'm thinking about. I want a noir stylish and black as the primary background. So I thought I'd look at that. Last one that I found that I thought looked really interesting, graphic novel history of science fiction. This is something they've really been doing in the last, I don't know, 15 years or so in particular, doing these nonfiction graphic novels. I think it's great. It's a great way to take in history more quickly and easily. But publishing science fiction books now, and particularly this old style, older, more retro style, which I'll show you in particular what's. Oh, I've written about this. Big into Alan Moore right now. This Tom Strong series and character that he did was very much an homage to 1920s, 1930s style science fiction adventures, more upbeat and optimistic. Kind of a pushback against, he became so famous for Watchmen and V for Vendetta and From Hell, kind of these darker comics. And he said he always would say that people kind of took the wrong lessons from that. It wasn't just a license to do violent, dark comics. And this is an example of, I mean, his whole line of ABC Comics, America's Best Comics, that he put out several characters. We're trying to be more optimistic and upbeat. League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, Promethea, Tom Strong, Top 10. Um, but this kind of retro 1920s, 1930s, pre World War II science fiction fantasy. That's where I'm thinking I want to be reviving stuff. The World War II really broke the world in ways that we don't appreciate or don't understand, or maybe it takes a little while for us to figure it out. With you look at culture in the 20s and 30s before World War II, and then how it changed afterwards, and much darker, particularly because very quickly after World War II, Cold War, and it's the nuclear age. So it was different time and place. Okay, what other books should I talk about that I have that aren't jumping into the right wing book club? Because I want to do a separate live stream when I start to introduce that. So let me just pull out a few other books that I'm reading that I'm interested in right now. Just a second. Okay. I pulled a pile of a few other books. These are ones that I'm sort of reading and perusing now. Lose Stella. Mm, yeah. This is when it's due back at the library soon. I've run out of holds on it. It's a short book. When I was really getting into researching about AI, I kind of made this realization: okay, it's artificial intelligence. It's not artificial creativity. So I started to get some books specifically about creativity, and this is one of them. And I'm about 20 pages into it. I should just buckle down and finish it. It's not. It's only just over 100 pages and short and single spaced and so on. But it's good. I mean, John Cleese, he's great. He's funny. He's very one of the most talented comedian, creative people. So sure. Um, I'm a Bulwark guy, as some of you know. I like Tim Miller. Regularly watching his podcasts. So been meaning to get his book, and this is technically in the right wing book club pile. Newest book of Robert Anton Wilson that his daughter's publishing company has put out. This is a collection of, I mean, this is just great. Political views and writings from 1960 to just before he died. Primary influence on me. And I'll just point out, you may be wondering, what does a non-Euclidean perspective mean? Non-single lines. It's not a straight line perspective. It means I'll pull out the particular essay, 354. Left and right, a non-Euclidean perspective. Wonder if there's a bit from here I should read aloud. I know. Should plan this ahead of time. I was going to do that. I'll talk about it more in depth later. But yeah, he's my author that's probably influenced me the most over the years. I talk about him too much for people, probably. Um, I am about 60 pages into this, which will go into the right wing book club. It's good so far, because I'm doing the whole spectrum of right wing views from center right establishment moderates to, far right fascists and Nazis, looking at the whole perspective. Speaking of fascists and Nazis, not a fan, as I've written about. Not a fan. Oh, here it is. Crusader, Ronald Reagan book. How far am I into this one? Yeah, I'm 150 pages into this one. How many pages? This one is a lot of notes. The actual text of it around 320 pages. But I still have halfway to go, and I don't know. It's been a bit slower going because I don't know. It's gotten a bit more technical. I feel like, or very. It's not as exciting. You know the ending. So it's like, okay, here's this. It's like, it's a mystery, but how it ends. So it's kind of okay. How does he do it? And I already know. I already sympathize with the view, but it's 150 pages of like kind of doing my homework of getting all the particular details of which Reagan policies and how won the Cold War. But even though I'm sympathetic to the view, I should be skeptical, and I will be skeptical as I continue to read it because I have to pit his version of Reagan and why the Cold War ended against the as I mentioned earlier, got left-wing Reagan books in there that I'll talk about. Got, the Max Boot Reagan biography that came out recently. This is an attempt to be the definitive new Reagan book, which I guess they try. Max Boot is. I'm not exactly in his camp of never Trump neoconservatism. I find him a bit obnoxious and arrogant sometimes, but and that's what I've found starting the book. I've read the prologue, and yeah, I mean it's well written and interesting history, but kind of, well, I shouldn't jive into. I'm just feel like I need to read it, get that perspectives, and see, because that's the thing. I'm getting all the different takes on it. So this is like the never Trump pragmatic neoconservative take on Reagan that tries to counter this take on Reagan, because take on is like the true believer conservative take, and this is the skeptical revisionist, still conservative anti-communist take, but I think more pragmatic. Um, this will also be in the right wing book club. This is something I'm going to brag about. That would be an autographed Buckley book. Who's it to, by the way? I will save that for when I talk about the book, because that's a funny story. Funny story of how I acquired this book and who this was originally inscribed to, and but this is Buckley's not just story of his faith, but I guess also kind of argument for his faith and his version of Catholicism, and so I this um I'll wait to get into, my where I'm at on Buckley and things now, because measured, but I still value him and like him, and um he still was a great writer. He still did a lot of important things, even if he was flawed. We're all flawed. That's always the classic picture of him. A few years ago, I started just collecting as many Buckley books as I could, because I knew, okay, at some point I'm going to do the conservative right wing study, and now I am. Now is the time to do it. Um, and this one will. This is what year it is? 1970. So this is Buckley defining conservatism in 1970. Who are the thinkers and texts that he picked to define what conservatism meant? And as I've talked about, I am partisan of the Frank S. Meyer school, which is the Reaganist school. And honestly, I mean, I still need to read all of this. I'm a political science geek and all. I read books on ideology for fun, because it's my profession, essentially, professional ideologist. The truth is, um, of all the people in here right now, after me being in right wing space for this long, like if I had to be like, I like, of course, I'm partisan of Frank S. Meyer's school. Uh, I'm still a Milton Friedman guy. I'm in the Chicago School economic. That's my current of libertarianism. I got a bunch of Thomas Sowell books over here that I'll talk about later. So I still love Thomas Sowell, but everybody else I haven't really gotten into. I really don't care for James Burnham or Wilmore Kendall. Like when I'm talking about National Review and the conservative movement, like there's all these kind of core personalities that made up National Review that Buckley brought together. And you kind of, if you're going to understand American right, you got to know, like, okay, what did this person contribute, and what was this person's ideas, and I made the move from left to right. And when you do that, particularly if you're I mean, I have a degree in political science. So I have to kind of I had to go through and be like, okay, well, who do I agree with? Am I going to be a Whittaker Chambers person, or am I going to be an Ayn Rand person, or am I going to be a Ron Paul person, or Pat Buchanan? I mean, obviously, I jumped into the Horowitz school, and so which meant that had a particular ex-leftist approach, focused on Marxism, focused on that range of things. But so you have to read the different thinkers. Russell Kirk, of course, the main one. And I didn't care for most of them. I think Whittaker Chambers is overrated. I think Ayn Rand is really overrated. But Frank S. Meyer, really underrated. Though he's getting his due, finally. He was great. Last book that I've had in the pile, I've had this for years. I've been wanting to get into this, but it's another big, intimidating one. Dawn of Everything. Amidst all these right-wing books, this would count as a far-left book, because this is anarchist version of history. David Graeber, anthropologist and anarchist activist. But I think it's pretty. He died, but I think he's pretty cool. I think it's pretty cool, pretty interesting. The anarchist leftists are a bit different in some ways. Wasn't particularly anti-Israel, I don't think. But Chomsky endorsement. Though I don't think we'll have to hear much about Noam Chomsky going forward. Yeah. Leftists are going to be done talking about him. Thanks to the Epstein files. Man, he really fucked up. Okay. I think that's probably enough. Um, I hope everybody's enjoyed this little book talk. I'm going to do more of these. That'll be more organized. Um, I have a pile of books. I will give you a sneak preview. Yeah, I've kind of grouped together right-wing books that I have from the library, from my own collection. I've accumulated over the years. Not all explicitly. I mean, mostly books by or about right-wing subjects. Few about Marxism and few historical books. But I remember when he signed this to me, I met him. David Fight the Man, Andrew Breitbart. It's meant a lot to me ever since. Wrote a little bit for Big Hollywood at his invitation. Now I've been trying to keep doing that. Politics is downstream from culture, and here it is, we're making culture. Not just criticizing this, we're criticizing, oh, left-wing Hollywood's doing this, oh they're not going to publish right-wing authors. No, we just do it ourselves. Even if I'm just live streaming from a phone. And in particular, too, another great man that I worked with more than I did with Andrew, Ion Mihai Pacepa, highest ranking defector from the Soviet bloc. This was his final book, co-wrote with R. James Woolsey, former CIA director under Clinton. This is Pacepa's memoir. Ronald Reagan said that it was his Bible for dealing with dictators. He read it in manuscript form before it was published. To David, with best wishes and thanks for fighting the good fight. It's an incredible book. It's just packed. It's dense with material. And it was evidence at Ceausescu's trial. It's the most badass thing. Write a book, write something, and it gets entered as evidence to lead to the execution of a dictator. Jasminda, girl. You wanting a walk soon, girl, I think? Yes, you are, sweetheart. I'll let you out. Okay. Thank you, everyone, for joining this little fun live stream. I'm going to try and do more of them. Keep figuring out this medium, which I'm doing reluctantly. So, thank you, everyone, for your support, your kindness. I hope this has been fun and entertaining. And next time, I'm going to be more systematic. I think I'm going to launch the Right Wing Book Club. And in particular, just so you know, let's flip this back around. The two primary books I'm going to talk about are going to be this new Buckley book by Sam Tannenhouse, which I've talked about is a massive failure as a biography, though there's still much to learn from it. And then Daniel J. Flynn's The Man Who Invented Conservatism, which is about Frank S. Meyer. Then I've read a few of these other ones, but those are the two main ones that we will have as the main basis of the series. Okay. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining us, and talk to you all soon. Bye-bye.